and welcome to another high-tech lesson where you're gonna change and I'm gonna change. We're all gonna change and turn into geologists. Are you ready? Because we're gonna be learning about all sorts of different types of rocks and wonderful things that are left in the ground. But before we do that, grab your bag. The bag to grab is this one. It has some sand and a cup, a paintbrush, a stick, pipette, a bunch of other stuff. Also, not included are these things: a disposable plate, any type of plate that you have, something like that. And also, I would say a pan, something a little bit more sturdy. If you don't have a pan, just use a plate. That'll be fine too. But we need that. And finally, a cup of water. Okay, so once you have all those things and you will be ready to turn into a geologist. Then what is a geologist? Well, they are special scientists like myself, of course, because I'm very special. I'm very a special scientist. Mm-hmm. And these geologists, they usually study about different types of rocks that make up our planet Earth. Well, how many types of rocks are there? 3. There are 3 different types of rocks. Well, if you take a look inside of your bag, you got all 3. Okay? And if you take out these 2 rocks here, well, one has a whole bunch of holes and one doesn't. Take the one that doesn't. This one is called granite, which is the type of rock called metamorphic rock. Okay, now what's a metamorphic rock? Well, these guys are formed inside of the mantle. That's under all of these rocks, okay, that we are standing on. It's made inside of there, and inside of there, there's a lot of heat and a lot of pressure squeezing it. So much so that when it's made, these guys are really hard and really dense, meaning they're very tightly packed. All right, and that is again called metamorphic rock. Right, but then the other one, the one that has holes, this one's called scoria, like you're making a score. Huh. Yeah, these are a type of rock called igneous. Now, igneous rocks are the ones that come out of a volcanic eruption. But notice, there's some holes there. Where did it get those holes? Well, remember, it's coming from inside of a volcano. There's a lot of heat inside of there and a lot of pressure. And so what happened is that a lot of the bubbles already got stuck inside from all the pressure and squeezing and the heat. And once the lava came out of the volcano, it cooled so fast that those bubbles, those gas bubbles, got trapped because it cooled really fast. It turned from lava, which is melted rock, into a solid rock like this. And so since the gas bubbles got stuck inside of there, that's why you still have the holes inside of them. But that's just 2 types of rocks. Here we got the igneous, we got the metamorphic. Well, it doesn't end there. There's one more type of rock, which are the sedimentary rock. Okay, meaning sediments. Like this. Okay, so how do you make those? Well, what happens is when the lava cools down, it makes the rocks, right? And it makes mountains, islands, all sorts of things. But the rocks don't just stay there. There's something that comes along and breaks it down. But it's not a karate man going. No, he does not break it down. There are a whole bunch of other things that could break it down, like water, wind, earthquake, even a tree root. A lot of things that can break it up, but especially like water. Water does a really good job of breaking down mountains. Like, take a look at the Grand Canyon. Who broke it? Was it the karate man? No, water broke it. And whenever it's breaking the rocks, in science we call that weathering. So it weathers these rocks, and well, these pieces of sand that I have here, they actually used to come from a giant rock. Okay, so what would happen is the water would break off little pieces from that rock in the mountain, and then it will take these little pieces of sediments, as we call it, down the river, okay? And, well, it's breaking it down, but how does it make a rock? Because so far this is just sand, right? So how does it make a sedimentary rock? Well, it takes those pieces down the river and lays them at the bottom of the river. So here comes one layer of those rocks, and then it brings some more of these sediments and puts another layer and another layer and another layer and another layer and another layer, and so many layers, so much that there's so much pressure and weight, and it turns it into a rock. a sedimentary rock because of all the different types of sediments. So we're gonna do, in our next experiment, we're gonna figure out how that's like. How is it that you take different layers to make a sedimentary rock? We're gonna find out right now. Oh, are we going? Oh. You didn't say action! Anyway, sedimentary rock, these are what we need. The bag of sand, this little tiny cup that was inside of the bag, the pipette, and the cup of water. It's a very simple experiment. So remember, this isn't a rock yet. These are a whole bunch of sediments, little pieces of sand that were broken off through weathering, right? Weathering of the mountain or the different types of rocks, whether it was water or wind, whatever it is, broke it into these little pieces. But now we're going to take this and turn it into a sedimentary rock. Okay, but the way that happens is, remember, it makes multiple layers on top of each other. All right, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take some of this sand, and the first thing you wanna do is fill up this cup with this sand, just about a third of this cup. Okay, so just go ahead, take that and pour it in there. Just a little bit, just about a third, and that is good. Okay, so this is what would happen. Okay, one layer of sand and sediment will be at the bottom of the river, and to kind of make it as if it's the bottom of the river, we're just going to take some of this water and put it onto there. Okay, and do you guys remember how we use the pipette? Well, all you got to do is you just got to squeeze the big part and then let it go, right? So squeeze it, and you have to let it go while it's inside of the cup of water. So then pick that up. We're going to do 2 squirts. Okay, so there's 1, and you can see I'm kind of spreading around. And here is 2. That's it. Okay, then what we're gonna do next is we're gonna fill it up another third of this cup, two thirds basically of this cup. Okay, and then fill it up just a little bit more. Okay, let's add a little bit more. Okay, maybe give it a good shake. And now here is our second layer of sediments. So the more layers, the more weight will be on top of all of this. It creates more pressure, and eventually it solidifies all together. But we're gonna add again 2 more squirts of this water. So again, you just gotta squeeze it, let it go, pick it up, and spread it around. Gonna do two times, right? That's 1, and here is 2. And this time, we're gonna use our fingers to kind of push it down, because remember, there's a lot of pressure that push it down on all this. So what I like to do is I like to take my fingers, 2 of them at least, and just kind of bend it like this so I can use my knuckles and just kind of push down. Yeah, you gotta use your muscles to push these down. But now, with all of that weight of the top layer pushing down, it's starting to solidify. It's starting to become one piece of rock. But we're not done yet. Okay, we could take another layer on top of this, and you could take the remainder amount of this sand, and if it's gonna overflow, then don't put it all the way. It's okay if you don't put all of it on. Like, as you can see, my cup is almost spilling over. Can I put all of it? I don't know. Oh, perfect. All right. Then with this, let's add again 2 squirts of wawa. Okay, so just take that, squeeze it, let it go. Put it right on top of there. 1 and 2. Now we got 3 layers of sand, right? And sediments. And then just go ahead and use your knuckles again. Push it down. And this is, again, to try to reenact the amount of weight of all of that sediment and sand that is on top of each other, crushing it all together to make it one rock, sedimentary rock. And you might also notice that sometimes there are different layers, right? Different colors. Most of the time, sedimentary rocks have different layers. So next time maybe you're driving out, you might see on the mountain, there's different lines just going straight across, right? Even you can see in this picture, a whole bunch of different colors, different lines. Those are just to show you the different layers over years, thousands of years, that were put on top of each other, just as you would see this here, made here, right? That's because of the weathering of the rocks from the big ones, turning into the little ones, compacting on top of each other, making this sedimentary rock. So there you go. So earlier we learned a little bit about weathering, which is again the breaking down of these bigger rocks into super tiny pieces of rock that we call sediments, right? But there's the process of that breaking it, right? Which is what we said, weathering, right? And there's all sorts of different types of ways. I mentioned a little bit about how water can break down things like a Grand Canyon, right? And there's others like wind. Here we can see an image of wind really kind of, you could say, slicing off little pieces of the rock and taking little bits of sediments here and there. But since the wind is rubbing against it, that friction causes it to break off little strands or little pieces of this bigger rock into little pieces of sediments, right? But not only this, also even a tree root, right? Once it grows little by little, it can stretch out and break down the rock that is around it. So in our next experiment, we are going to use water to weather our sedimentary rock that we just made. So to see the weathering of our sedimentary rock by using this water, these are the parts that you're gonna need. The sedimentary rock that you just made, the disposable plate or a hard plate, whichever one, any type of plate, or even a bowl, you could do that too. And finally, the cup of water with the pipette. Okay, so before we start, just to be sure that our sedimentary rock really stays all together, we're just gonna add a little bit more water to it. And as you can see, like how I talked about earlier, there's different colors, kind of showing the different layers within the sedimentary rock. But this time we're gonna add a little bit more water so that it's more uniform, a single color, more or less. Just a little bit more so it's more stuck together. Okay, so kind of gauge it by the color that you have, okay, and see if it's gonna change to a single color. So just add, I guess you could say 2 squirts at a time. Here's a second squirt, and then just kind of push it down. Okay, let's maybe try 2 more. But you don't want to do too much. You don't want to do too much, right? 1 and 2. Now what we're doing here is we're just prepping our sedimentary rock, just making sure that it's nice and solid. Ow, I didn't see on the other side. Take a look at that. Yeah, so as long as you have one part that's kind of more uniform in color, as you can see here, then you're good. Because the water, it takes a little bit of time to seep down all the way to the other side, okay? So then what we want to do is, now that our sedimentary rock is ready, we're going to break it, okay? We're going to cause a little bit of weathering to go on here. Now, what I like to do is, instead of trying to flip it over like this, take your plate, make it a hat. Put it on top, hold the top, flip it over, and now just gently try to wiggle this out, and ta-da! We made a sandcastle. Okay, so we got ourselves our sedimentary rock here, but again, we're gonna go through some weathering, breaking it down, but we're not even gonna touch it. So how do you break it without touching it? Well, like I said earlier, we're gonna use some some water, put it on there and see how this works. Okay, so we are going to just grab the pipette with the water, okay, and just start squirting right on top of there. Nothing happened. Do it again. And you could do on the top, or even better, on the side. Whoa, wow, that was a lot more. Take a look at that. That was some good weathering right there, tell you what. That's weathering. Breaking down of the bigger rock, our sedimentary rock, to smaller ones. As you can see, you could do some more. Eventually, it's really gonna knock this over. Yeah, as you can see, it's really breaking it down. Now, there's also another word for this, specifically when water is moving land like this, or pieces of sand kind of like this. This is called erosion. Okay, but overall, when it breaks it down from these bigger rocks to the smaller rocks, using whether it's water or wind or a tree root or earthquake, right, is overall called weathering, the breaking down of, rocks like this. So here, my sandcastle's gone, our sedimentary rock is gone, but it's okay, right? Eventually, it's just gonna take some more of those layers, put it onto another layer, maybe make another sedimentary rock. But there you go with our weathering experiment. Now, of course, there are many things that are found in the ground, right? Like rocks, but not just that. There are a lot of other things that you can find that people have left. People from a long time ago, ancient civilizations. And there are special scientists who try to look for those things. We call them archaeologists. And the reason why they want to look for these artifacts, these things like, might be pottery, plates, maybe weapons, bones, clothing, if possible, right? They're trying to look for all of these things to better understand, well, how did these people live? What did they use? What was their type of culture, right? And so archaeologists would go out of their way to try to dig up in the ground in a place where they would think, maybe this is where they were. So of course they don't just randomly, hey, let's just dig over there and dig over there. They look at a place where they think they might have lived, dig up some of those artifacts so that they could understand a little bit about these ancient civilizations. And each time they found something, it gave them a clue as to how they lived, how these ancient civilizations used to live from a long time ago. So in our next experiment, we are going to be archaeologists. Are you ready to be an archaeologist? I certainly am, and we are going to be digging up for some cool artifacts. Then let's find some artifacts. These are what we're gonna need for our archaeological dig. You need the pan. Again, you can use any sort of plate. The harder it is, really, if you don't have a pan, you could just use anything else, but the harder it is, the better. But here I have a pan. This came from inside of the bag. This is our little dig site. A paintbrush, a little tiny skewer, and our digging tool. All right, so now let us dig into this. Not eat it, but I mean like dig into it. But anyway, we are going to first take off the tape, the wonderful tape that we have that is around this. Take it all off. There we go. And we got one more tape that's holding this guy together. There we go. All right, so you don't need the green bubble wrap. Put that to the side. And take a look at that. We've got ourselves our dig site, and we're gonna dig like archaeologists do. So take your digging tool, like your craft stick. Try not to be too close, because you might get some of the sediments to go into your eyeballs. So keep your distance a little bit and then just start poking. But don't just poke it. You gotta use your muscle. Now, this is one thing that we do want to tell you guys is if it's really hard, even for parents to do it, maybe add a little bit of water if you're having a hard time. But so far, I'm still doing okay. So I'm just gonna keep on digging with my digger. Okay. And another thing you could do is you could just slide forwards and backwards, as you can see. Whoa, that works a lot better. You could do that. And to the, ooh, I think I see something. What is it? Oh, do you guys see that? Oh my goodness. What is that? So you could do different ways. You could hack at it, right? Or you could hold it like this, like a pen, and move it like, backwards and forwards. Or you could hold it as if you're about to poke something and just kind of poke forwards and backwards. There's all sorts of ways that you can break down these rocks, as you can see, like this. And try different ways. If this doesn't work, let's see if this will make a difference if I use this, huh? Ooh, oh yeah. Oh yeah, I think I found some sort of coin. It looks like a coin. Does it look like a coin? I don't know. It's exciting. Let's keep on digging around it. If you want to take a closer look as to what it is, you could also use the brush to brush away the dirt that is around there. Ooh. You can see that a lot better. Take a look at that. Okay, but it's not completely out, so you could continue to use the digger. Just take out the rest of the dirt that is around it. Oh, this is great. And I don't know what it is, but that's what's wonderful about being an archaeologist. They might think, what do they use this for? Was it because they had a tiny car? I don't know. But of course, they would find things like pottery, plates, spoons, weapons maybe. And from it, they're able to kind of start getting clues as to what type of people these were or what they used to do on a daily basis maybe even, right? And that's the beauty about being an archaeologist, not only just finding them, but to try to understand as to what this is or what these artifacts were and how these ancient civilizations used to use them. And obviously, of course, what you could do afterwards is it still looks a little bit dirty. Just take your paintbrush and, just brush off the rest of that, that dirt. You can even dip it in some water, wash it off, right? And those are some of the things that these archaeologists do. Now, this is not the only thing that is in there. There's a whole bunch more. Let me just look for one more. Okay, but for you guys, there's tons of it. And just go ahead and keep on finding all of your different types of artifacts that you might have inside of there. But let me just find one more. And, oh, I found a bead. A little tiny bead. What does it say? Let me use my brush. Oh, it has the letter R for Mega Manoa. No, the Mega Manoa doesn't start with the R. I don't know. This is where archaeologists use their thinking caps and start thinking, what did they used to use this for? What type of people were they? Right? So that's what's really awesome about being an archaeologist. But again, like how I said, we're not done. There's a whole bunch more. But I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna let you guys do a whole bunch more digging, because there's actually a lot more artifacts that you can find inside of here. So there we go. We got to take a close look as to what these archaeologists are able to do, finding cool stuff, learning about them, and then speculating as to what these ancient civilizations used to be like. Wow. We got to be geologists and archaeologists, and it was rad. Oh. We found a lot of really awesome stuff, talked a lot about rocks. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I certainly did. And as always, thank you guys for always joining us. Until next time, I will see you digging outside, not in here, because don't be gross.